as much as I try to move past this 2023 just has me shook to my core. What in the happened? What's up, it's your boy Cintron coming back at you with another analysis video. And kid you not, that's my real name. Thought it was gonna be a longer series, but looks like it's gonna only be 3 or 4 videos for this one. But we're diving into part 2, 2022. No bars. Anyways, the honeymoon phase. So what the hell happened? This was the highlight because it all goes downhill after this year. So the 2022 Eagles took the NFL by storm, led by Jalen Hurts' meteoric development as a passer. Opposing defenses found themselves constantly on their heels, unable to predict the Eagles' next move. It was a masterclass of misdirection and sleight of hand made possible by the acquisition of a matchup nightmare named A.J. Brown. So the Tennessee Titans foolishly traded this man for a first and a third, and he's been well worth more than that. Treylon Burks, the guy they picked with that first round pick, hasn't panned out. He's headed into a pivotal third year, I think, this year. Well, yeah, it has to be third year. And it's just, it's sad because so much was thrust upon this young man's shoulders, pause, because he was replacing a legend in A.J. Brown, who was vastly underrated and underutilized in Tennessee Titan land as a yak receiver only. He could take a 3-yard slant and get a bulk of yards, and he still does that. But he's been used more of a deep threat and more threatening in the intermediate area, and he's been money to say the least. So he changed the game for us. We had Devonta Smith already and Quez Watkins, who was bumped to the number 3 role, which he hadn't. I don't want to say it hasn't because he's out of here. He's a Pittsburgh Steeler now, but he hadn't taken to. But he was a former 6th-round pick. We got bang for our buck there and got the most out of his talents that we're going to get here in Philadelphia. He might still pop off with the Steelers, and I think a much deserved backseat role, truly being just a deep threat. But back to A.J. Brown, man, he changed the game for us, and with defenses having to be honest with him, pay him credence, it allowed everybody else to go off, and it was a snake tail eating bonanza because teams trying to stop him, they couldn't really, they didn't really have a man to throw at the problem to begin with, and he's gonna get his, the 10-yard slant. I'd say 10 yards because he takes the 3 and he gets the rest with his physical being. But I mean, hey man, when things are working, they're working. So let's jump into why and how it works so well, because he's just a physical Adonis. I mean, this is kind of offhand, but the play was a disaster. He ran into DeAndre Swift, and he's not a small guy. He's 215. A.J. Brown's 225. He smacked the crap out of him. He barely felt it. And, Swift fumbled the ball and almost, gave away that first Dallas game, last year in 2023. But, fortuitously, Tyler Steen made the highlight play, not a blocking play, but a fumble recovery for us. And we just showed you how awesome A.J. Brown is without even trying to be awesome, actually on accident. But anyways, smoke bombs and flashbangs. No, this is not a porno. All right, let's get back on track, man. I'm not an X's and O's guy, but I do enjoy the work of those that are. And I feel I have a good idea of what made the 2022 offense so special on a broad scale. Layered optionality, and that truly was it, because if you weren't going to AJ, you were going to Dallas. If you weren't going to Dallas, you were going to Devontae. If you weren't going to Devontae, it was Jalen himself calling his own number. And then Miles Sanders also, finishing off a lot of those runs, and it made him all the more dangerous. Like, he had 4.9 yards, 1,200 yards, 69 yards, and a handful of touchdowns that year. It made him all the more dangerous. So, and him doing this in the end zone with against the 49ers, yeah, and Kelsey, going along with him, yeah, hot shit. Anyways, the 2022 the Eagles had 4 core concepts that built off one another, and they all shared the same common theme. I have to fix your grammar for you, of forcing the defense to pick their poison and always choosing incorrectly, which is a bind that we were able to put teams in, because they played this with single high safety, and that was just what Jalen wanted. It made the read easy for him, and a future problem because teams threw more complexity at us in 2023, and it required different answer, and we didn't have that in the offense baked in with Brian Johnson at the helm, because we all know who was leading the charge, Sirianni. Okay, anyways, number one, the run game, first and foremost, was designed around Jalen Sturt as a runner. Even in the straight running plays, it was often difficult to tell who was getting the ball. So he could hold the ball until the last second, and then the belly of the beast, holding it there, and the running back's running full speed. So you really truly have to pick your poison. And Jalen was just as dangerous. Go to the Packers game in 2022, where he popped off for 100 yards easy, and he was just running roughshod over their defense, up, around, through them. I mean, it just was scary for them. But yeah, Jalen's threat as a runner, it was diminished last year because he got hurt in the first game, I believe, against the Patriots, when he took that spear from the Patriots safety, Jabril Peppers, and lost a fumble, and there began our woes. Number two, the foundation of the pass game was built on the run-pass option, which put an unblocked defender in the impossible position of either tackling a running back who doesn't have the ball or crashing on the quarterback as the ball carrier scampers through the hole for 4+ yards. So Miles Sanders, he was explosive, and he was going to get his yards, and he bounced too many. He left so much meat on the bone, and he still had a stellar year because of the threat of Jalen Hurts and not being defenses not being able to key in on just him. And he'll do the same for Saquon this year, which is why I believe he'll have a banner year and have a bounce back year after having 3.9. But he was 10th in yards over expected last year. He got 93 yards over expected what he was supposed to get last year, because he was just the main guy they were focusing in on, and the only guy. But the offense is built on that run pass option, and the RPOs, they were running roughshod on teams and working magically. And we just had, the perfect balance. Shane Steichen was great at calling what needed to be called to keep the defense, honest and off kilter. And it was often the right answer. And Jalen was tasked with being able to make that call, and he was making them in spades. So number three, when defenses gave up and sold out to stop the run, a 1v1 matchup with Brown, Smith, or Goddard was inevitable. Yeah, it just was coming. Feed the ball, bam, bam, bam. He reads, dumps off to one of those guys. They're making magic, and they're built up a head of steam because the boxes are light. Jalen was given the coaching to determine pre-snap who would be on an island and allow his guy a chance to make a play, and that he did. Smith had 1,400 yards, nearly 1,496, nearly 1,500. Smith had 1,100. Goddard, before he got hurt, was on his way to having a 1,000-yard season. I think he ended up with 700. So, those three were, 60, 70, 80% of your offense? But, that's too top-heavy for most teams. But they were so reliable and consistent that it didn't matter. Number four, and finally, even when the passing plays themselves, there were option routes. It was common to see a passing play early in the game produce moderate results, or even failure, and then to see a slight variation on that play later in the game result in a touchdown. Because go to the Steelers game, the reason that AJ was wide open was that they were we were calling we had bluffs in the shallow zones, and that was causing teams to crowd, getting that seam coverage look that we wanted, and he was feasting. Just you got caught on 3 TDs that game. It was ridiculous. And I think they were all kind of variation of different look, or different looks that confused teams early in the game. The Steelers defense early in the game, and it was money. The 4th TD, because Jalen threw 4 that day, he threw to Steelers. He threw to now Arizona Cardinals receiver Zach Pascal. It was because he had been blocking all game, and then finally we threw it to him, and he took it to the house. So that's, we were talking about concepts paying off. It's not about the immediate payoff. I'm layering a trap for you. Are you going to fall for it? Are you going to fall asleep? And can I lull you to sleep? And I think that's why I think Kellen Moore's offense is going to be beautiful, because he says it himself. It's about doing the most with the least, because you want to show the minimum amount of looks, but do the maximum amount of damage, because that one look could be 4 different plays or more. So multiplicity out of a simple basic subset that confuses the hell out of teams, and multiplicity is the name of the game. Let's see. The complexity of these options allowed for simplicity elsewhere, a feature in 2022 that would later decay into a bug in 2023 when we start spamming the same move, and got KO'd. Knocked the fuck out, as not Daddy, sorry, your boy Smokey would say. But more on that, damn. Hey man, don't come from my black hearts, please. Reprieve, tired. Anyways, these simplicities are all effectively masked Hurts' weaknesses from 2021. Because the run game forced defense into basic single high coverages, the Eagles were able to succeed with elementary passing concepts, ergo the high school offense, that have been college and pro staples for decades. So we didn't reinvent the wheel, we just mastered the concept of rolling in centrifugal force, and a little bit too well, because we oversold our stock and we have to pay it off with bonds, and you see how that's working. It notably lacked the under center play action and motion that were hallmarks of Shanahan-inspired offenses, instead relying on the talent of the receiving corps to win on islands. It was a gamble that paid off in a big way. So relying on your talent, and we went into that, saying we're gonna line up and just be better than you in 2023, and that failed gloriously because talent over scheme. No, you have to have supreme talent. And even look at the 49ers are a perfect example. They have great talent on the outside and at the skill positions, but they have a scheme backing that exacerbates that talent, And it'd be like the 49ers trying to beat people with just, lining up. Yeah, you could beat a lot of, maybe most of the league, majority of the league, but the elites, that ain't gonna work because they have brain power, intellect, IQ backing their schemes, and, a schemer will always win at the end of the day. Because the gap in the NFL is not like college, so everybody in the pros is at least semi, good to a certain degree. And if a guy had enough man hours practice poured into him, he could, reach the good to pretty good territory. That's just the way the NFL works. The basic defensive alignments Hurts faced meant that he was able to dissect the formation pre-snap when he was not facing any pressure to deliver the ball quickly. So, yeah, he was just, behind that good old line. And, we were throwing so much at guys, but, they were distracted that, they didn't have time to bring pressure. And then when they did, we had some answers baked in by way of, that optionality. So any post-snap reads Jalen was asked to do were largely simple. One player reads of an unblocked defender. Yeah. So he would bam, 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 just scan real quick and then get to the guy that he intended to all along, or, the second read that's open. And we had a lot of guys running open because, like I said, the single high safety, we were stretching teams thin. They weren't being forced to play more complex defense, or they didn't see that as the answer. And they definitely figured that shit out next year. He was not challenged with many complicated shifting coverages due to the threat of the run game. So they tried, but we would, run through those coverages. When they did, they made them pay enough to back off when they were scared. Scared straight, kind of. For any team with less talent, the simplicity of this offense masked by unpredictability would eventually be exposed as smoke and mirrors. But with the Eagles, they were using smoke bombs and flashbangs, so different kind of, things to throw people off our trail. They would not be figured out in 2022, but they did rely on critical hinge points that secured that collapse in 2023. So we get to that because we got overly simplistic and something that's oversimplified. Yeah, it's eventually going to be ripped to shreds. So the Razor's edge. For a simple but wildly unpredictable offense to be effective, the Eagles' fate hinged on a razor's edge composed of three factors. Number one, Jalen Hurts' threat as a runner and staying healthy when he carries the ball, which he mostly did. Besides the Chicago game that caused him to miss 2 games, he was healthy. Last year, hobbling through it. Number two, intelligent play calling to keep defenses off balance. Didn't have that last year, so it was so droll, that we were spamming plays, and teams knew it. They were calling us out last year. Number three, facing basic coverages, defensive coverages that did not require complex post-snap reads, and teams were doing that way too much to us last year. showing us one look, send pressure and such, and then dropping 8 off into to zones. And we were pressing the issue because we were trying to look for hunting for the big play instead of settling for what the defense would give us, truly being an amorphous offense, which pissed me off. The first 2 made the Eagles' offense effective, but the third made it explosive. Hurts' post-snap processing was often called into question in 2021, and the Eagles' offensive brain trust essentially erased its need for it in 2022, which causes fast money, slow problems. So we caused him to not to deal with it, but that hurt his kind of development in 2023 with maybe dealing with it himself, coming up with the answer himself. So which he pretty much had to do because the offense was and the answers they were giving him were inadequate and short-sighted. Instead, by forcing opponents' defenses to play their game, so these defenses were playing in our wheelhouse. All Hurts needed to do on most plays was figure out who had to match up in isolation, which is easy to do because you're looking at your reading, kind of have to feel your reads are cut down. He was able to decide pre-snap where he was going with the ball, and the result was a high-octane, deep ball passing offense that would make Don Coryell proud. So, he was just allowed to do what he did best, throw a pretty deep ball and let his receiver just work. Of course, damn, where you from, bro? Of course, one can only live on a razor's edge for so long, especially when defensive coordinators have had an entire offseason to dissect the offense. Cue Belichick in the first game of the season in September. Hey, man, gave that man Batman game, prep time, and he destroyed us. Nearly, so because we got the dub, but it was a struggle. That, against a team that we struggled on defense as well. That was one of our banes, because we went up, I think, pretty decently, and we let them come back. What goes up must come down. They came down, and when it took longer, even if it took longer than it should have. So we'll analyze 2023 last year. I was going to say next year, next video. But anyways, you're not even watching though. But it's all good because I love making these videos and I love talking about the freaking stinking Philadelphia Eagles. So we'll chunk this is officially. But as always, it's Fly Eagles Fly, and let's motherfucking go.
Like, comment, share, subscribe if you want.
Thanks for watching. Check me out at Cintron Anime, Cintron Life, or Cintron Laughs, or other social media.